usually their interest is just about data, and saving data. Now, here today, I have someone that is very intelligent, super educative, and very, very contributing to engineering. He's no other person but Toby. This guy himself recently wrote a book about contextual engineering and then got featured in TechCabal. Toby, welcome. Tell us about yourself.
Hi guys, so nice to be here. Thanks, Patrick. So, mm, um, he said very intelligent. Not my anymore. He's more intelligent than I am. But then, yeah, I'm a software engineer. I have about more than 8 years experience in the field. I've been working as a software engineer, or I've been doing a lot of stuff even before university days. But the 8 years we are asked to start counting from after pre-university, that's after university anyways. So my name is Toby, like I've been introduced. I've been in software. I've been the opportunity to work in education. I've also built some stuff for the in the health sector. Also worked in fintech for a while. I'm well versed in different stages, both in the ideation process, the development process of an idea, and even getting to launch. Currently, I'm a senior backend engineer at 7-Eleven, part of a team of developers, and that is building a lot of amazing stuff there. And yeah, that's
Awesome.
just me. Sorry.
Okay, great. So I've gone through some parts of your book, but not everything, right? You kind of focus on contextual engineering,
Mhm.
right? So for you, what is the most common misconception when it comes to contextual engineering, or which of them have you encountered?
So it's the beginning of the book was like let me say the beginning of the book. There's something I wrote there about the story about um a friend. It happened anyways, but then there was this part whereby a software was being tested in Silicon Valley in California, and the software was working really well, really good, and they brought it to Nigeria to do exactly the same thing. So what the software was supposed to do was to map out a route for a delivery system from point A to point B. And it was easy to develop, the system worked easily because what the AI had to do was to just plot the map, find the time. The ETA was perfect. There was no misguidance. It puts into consideration even the traffic light, how long the traffic light to take, the different turns, the alternate routes, everything was intact. Now, that same software was brought to Nigeria to plot from a point A to point B. And at the end of it, the software could not even fathom the traffic that's going to happen in between. The software could not, there were so many things that were a bit off because the software wasn't necessarily built for the African market. So that happened. There are also personal cases that happened with mine too, which is having to build a software here in the US, tested it, everything was working perfectly. I built what's the name, a desktop application to be able to do some stuff for people who want to do product management. So it's for small SMEs that wants to manage their branding, they want to manage their websites. It's a, let's say, how Yoruba would say it, a solution for all. Let me put it like that. There's a word they use for it, but let me just leave it for our non-Yoruba speakers. And I took that same software and asked someone in Nigeria to test it out, and it failed woefully, not because of anything, but because of internet. So I started seeing that there are actually factors that drives certain innovations here in the US that also are missing in Nigeria. And that was when I started understanding the part that context is required for a system to work perfectly. So because something worked in the US doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work in Nigeria. So that was the gap I noticed, and that's where I started saying, okay, what if there was something we could do? Especially when it comes to AI. AI seems to be the in thing. There are many
Yeah.
other aspects, context that actually have played a very, very huge role. But in the aspect of AI, That was what one problem I was trying to solve.
Very interesting and quite relatable as well. So you mentioned about constraint. Of course, there are some constraints that are very, very obvious, like power, internet, data costs, just like I mentioned in my introduction, because most of the people we are building for, some of them, their complaint is, oh, they, are, they don't have power. Others will be like, the data to access the internet subscription is too expensive. So even you are now thinking, how can you make this work? So based on your book, right, in terms of infrastructure feature as well, these are obstacles that we have already identified, right?
Yeah.
So, but what can we do, in designing for this audience to turn these constraints, these bottlenecks into an innovative feature? You get what I'm saying? For example, as far back as 2021, I know I was part of a team where we built a project that allowed field agents to be able to collect data. And of course, most of those regions are remote areas where internet is a problem, right? So that was it. That we, of course, we had to go through different routes to ensure that they can collect data offline, and whenever they are in a region or a location where there's stable internet, it then uploads, to the server. So are there other innovative features that we can recommend?
Yeah, actually. So, let me just give a backdrop of a, let me just give a story. Let me tell a story based on how this came to be with me. So there was a point I was working as a vendor in at UBA, like UBA Holdings. Yeah, UBA, anyways. And they built a software, or they built an app that was supposed to help people who didn't have access to the internet. Now, that app makes a behind the scene call using the cellular router. So it uses USSD to communicate with the DB and connect to communicate with the server. So that way, if you needed to check your balance, it's going to make a call, a cellular network call, fetch your balance, then present it on the app. That way, the user doesn't necessarily have to be in a place that is internet. Now, when I was writing this book, one of the things I was considering is how do we make it possible, like you said, problems that are out there, everybody knows, like internet. And that was when I came up with a term called sync later, the sync later pattern. The whole point of the sync later pattern is for places that has bad internet, instead of the AI to stop working at that point, because I don't think anybody would like to, oh, I want to search something and you're in the wild, and next thing the AI tells you there's no internet. Even my Meta glasses does that. In places where there are no internet, so you have no Meta, you have no internet connection, it doesn't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
So then, in that case, what it does is the suggestion, or let me say, what I am, the recommendation I was making, or let's say the pattern that the book was introducing, is whereby instead of it failing when network drops, the agent just stores the actions and uses what they call local queue, SQLite, and fetch the data from that, or store the data if it needs to pass anything. And when there's internet, it sends it back. So another thing I also placed also was I also added a feature called the reference router, that's an hybrid format. And what this reference router does is able to, there's a logic gate that separates hard questions with simple questions. So for simple questions, local small language models like Llama 3B, 3 dash and Llama 3 dash 8B, they could literally handle those kind of questions, like asking questions about maybe a snake bite while you're in the wild, or something that is helpful to your health, that doesn't necessarily, that actually needs a response like now.
Now, yes.
So those kind of questions can be answered using those very tiny LLMs. And for bigger questions like you trying to compute a mathematical model, you can as well wait for internet. That's not life threatening. So yeah,
Yeah.
those two patterns, or what I was one of the was what the book suggested, or what I was suggesting in the book, which is the sync later pattern and the hybrid inference router. So I'm believing, at least we have been experimenting with some of it and we've been seeing some of it work. But let me just leave that to the next question.
Also, yeah. Of course, I've always been of the opinion that
Mm,
we identify problems, right? But it should not just stop at identification of this problem.
mhm.
It should move forward to proposing solutions. And that's where we can actually build a technology that will serve, the community, and then, continue to increase the adaptability of these solutions or these tools. Now, when talking about building for global audience or for communities as well, many young Africans developers, they feel like they must always build solutions for global audience. They must build
Mm.
for Silicon Valley ready, solutions before they can be taken serious. So what's your take about this? Should they be prioritizing local context, local context first?
Yeah, I think for every developer, it's always easier to conquer your domain. But another thing we also need to consider also is when you want to build for a local domain. Okay, I'm thinking I'm switching between two things. So let me just go back one bit. So for local developers, I think it's easier to build for your local domain, for your own domain where you are, because it's easier to test. It's easier to get quick feedbacks. You are in the position, so it's just like me. I have about, let's say, 10 apps. 10, when I mean apps here, I mean mobile apps, desktop apps, and web platforms that I've built over time in the span of about, let's say, 10 months. But I can tell you something, I built all of it for myself.
Mm.
Like I wasn't building it with anybody in mind. I wasn't building because I wanted to solve a problem, the problem of the world. No, I was solving my own problems. I have an app that connects to my car that sends reports based on different things. Now it's easier for me to test that over and over and over again. But imagine I drive a Hyundai Elantra. So imagine I'm now trying to build for a Tesla. I don't have a Tesla. I don't even understand. So how am I going to test? So my suggestion or my advice to young developers is build within your range, build for the community you are in, solve their problems. We have so many problems that can be solved. Even if the problem is not presenting itself now, your solution might start showing that this problem exists and start giving people the context that, okay, this is a solution to the problem we didn't even know we have. Then another thing also is, which is the flip side, the Bible said that a prophet is not honored in his own country. So sometimes you might build and the people in your community are not that, you're like, it's not that guy. Let's do it with them
Is
with
it
the
not, is it
same.
not, is it not told me that we know?
You get my point. And I think this actually happened to me too, because
Mm.
when I wrote this book and I shared it with a couple of, and I'm like, oh, man, you think they write, or that kind of, and so when the book was featured on TechCabal, a lot of them were like, oh wow, TechCabal, oh let me read it. I'm like, I published this book like almost how many weeks ago. But now TechCabal is giving you the ginger to read it. So my whole point is, if you feel you have the solution for a global audience, I think with the way the internet is now, the internet is way cheaper than how it's way cheaper, and it's even way stable and flexible compared to what we used to have in 2012.
Yeah,
Means
I agree.
you could build and the world can see it almost immediately you are done building it. But I'm saying that
Correct.
it is easier to build for your local community, because then feedback is, and the thing how I believe, what I believe about building things is, I believe in the part whereby we get feedback right now and now, because feedback always helps you refine your product. It helps with refinement, it helps with pivoting. You could even be just trying to solve a moonshot project, and while you're trying to solve that, you are realizing that there are many other solutions you could solve along the way. An example in my own case is I was trying to build, or let me say, I'm still in the process of building an app that helps dancers to sell their product and help people wanting to learn to dance. To solve the problem, I could either need to get a mocap, which is the dancers tend to wear it, and while they're dancing, it's connected to the system and it just reads their body movement. I don't have a mocap. I don't have the money for mocap. Mocap is like $300 something. So I thought to myself, why do that? Then I found out that I could actually build my own software. And so I built a software I call PostTag, which I'm going to make open source. I totally forgot, but I built PostTag. What PostTag does is it takes a dance video, pre-annotates it, and draws out the skeletal movements. The same thing a mockup would do. But what am I saying here is if PostTag becomes $1 million business tomorrow, that was not the goal. The main goal was the mobile app that helps people learn how to dance. But I'm already building another software in the process. So what I mean by saying that is if you solve problems in your community, solving one problem might actually lead you into solving 1,000 problems in the process. And since it's not all about the money, it's about we actually making other people's life better.
Better.
Then if that is the goal actually, and not the global audience because we want to also have a Tesla, I'm sure most people they will be keen on solving their problems in their local communities more than trying to solve a global audience problem. I don't know if what I'm saying
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. It totally makes sense, actually. It totally makes sense because just like I said, if trying to build and the key point is about feedback, actually, to be sure that you're actually doing the right thing.
Yeah.
What you are building is it working? For example, I had an opportunity one time for a project I was working on.
Mm.
When I joined, the accounting team, they were always spending hours, almost sometimes 20 hours every month, trying to reconcile accounts, and so on and so forth. And then I sat down with the head of finance. I was like, what is the problem? Why do you people usually spend so much hours, reconciling? Because I usually see the reports, customers complain, transaction settlement are delayed, and so on and so forth. So by discussing with him, I understood the problem. And I was like, okay, you know what, just give me 1 week. I'll come back to you. And then I went back, built a system that just automates the entire process of their reconciliation, everything that they were doing manually. And then I did a demo to him with him. In less than 5 minutes, something that they would have done for 20 hours was already running. And in fact, within 45 minutes, all things have been cleared. In fact, there was nothing to be done. You don't even need to do anything with the system. So it was like, wow, this is super. And then we did like different tests, of course, other engineering parts, and then did like UAT, and then finally released to the public for them to use. Now, what I'm saying in essence is that understanding the problem is not enough, but actually providing a solution that will actually solve this problem. And since then, they have never had any impact. Because one of the reasons why I got to know about the problem, because then they will now send me an email or they will call me as the lead engineer. Oh, this thing is happening. This thing is breaking out. So I was like, what is going on? Why are you experiencing this thing? But sitting down and then solving the problem, it gave me so much joy because now, as at then, I do not need to wake up or think out. It's end of the month. They are going to start calling me for reconciliation. I can sleep. I can shut down my phone. I don't know what's going to call me. Whenever they resume on Monday, the system has done everything on their behalf. The report, interestingly, generates the reports. Everything sent to the respective or concerned person, and everybody's fine. So, like you said it correctly. It's just about solving within your immediate problem, and trying to find a solution as well. So, you also mentioned something about the code. I know, GitHub repo is actually a very fantastic resource, and I'm glad that you also shared it. like people like us that we didn't wait for TechCabal to feature you before we read your book.
Thank you
So
so much.
yeah,
Thank
the,
you
the,
so
the
much.
bit of code is very good. But I mean, beyond the code, what are other open source sharing opportunities, that can actually help to accelerate how we build, solutions across the continent, or especially in our local communities, especially.
Mm. So I still think GitHub is still one, but since you said aside GitHub, I think it just depends on what the person is building. Like for models, I think Hugging Face is also a very good repository one can also explore. And I also think that exploring um what's the name? Exploring research projects is also a very good opportunity. Like one on like Zenodo, where I hosted my book. If you actually do go there, there are actually a whole lot of other projects that you can explore, and it will give you links to different what's the repository you could churn, you could manage, you could see what they did and you actually use it. But for data related things, I think Hugging Face is a very good one. At least that's where I was able to extract some models that I run locally when I'm trying to do, because sometimes so the thing that I like to experiment with these things, and I'm like, okay, why do I have to pay every month for something I could? So I decided to run my own local model. I think then it was Llama 3 or something like that that I also downloaded then. I think early this year, and I was playing with, and it was actually really good. But aside that, maybe other local places, I wouldn't be able to point out anyone now because I'm more or less of a GitHub person. I've been GitHub, I'm GitHub all the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite understandable. GitHub repos are very good resource, because sometimes when I'm just feel like, okay, I need to check something and then go back to some repository. I'm like, oh, this is very interesting.
Mhm.
How did we go here? I was like, oh, okay, cool. I remember one of my repository that I had. It was to kind of automatically generate responses, right? I had that many years ago, but I didn't do anything on it. So when I started thinking of building, a model that was specifically for legal system, generate contracts, and then handle every other aspects in terms of business and legal activity, then it came to my mind like, oh, I remember I at one point had something like this, but I didn't finish it because I didn't have enough resource at that time. I was focusing on something else. So I went back to it and then I revamped it. And then I used it now to now build a project that generate contracts, which I have that in my repository as well, where businesses can just go put name of your business there. This is not the regular model that just give you generic information, right? It gives you distinct information about the information you are willing to eat based on your business, and you can use it to, of course, there's a disclaimer. You have to also reach out to a legal person. just just like every other model will tell you that once in a while there will be some
Yeah.
mistake, so you cannot hold it responsible. But
Yeah.
that's fine. So for new joiners, right, for someone who is in Lagos, who is in Nairobi, who is in Kenya, or even Accra, that is actually learning from most of the international resources, what would you advise them, or for them to, because now there will be a need for them to actually develop contextual muscle.
Mhm.
You get, based on our conversation. So
Mm.
where should they start looking at in that regard?
So this will bring me to the framework I actually added, which is I call it it's part of the conceptual framework, but it's a mathematical framework in the system, and I called it the contextual tuple, which is saying that for everyone who wants to write code for a local business or for a population, let me just put it that way, that one of the things they have to consider is the constraints of infrastructure, the constraints of knowledge, in this case, culture, And the third one is the constraint of regulation. Now, before you start writing code, you need to account for these local realities. If you are going to build, okay, so I was a co-founder of a tech health related firm, and we tried building a model for the Nigerian market, and we were at it for a very long time. For the most part, what delayed the most is even in getting data,
Mm.
like data
Yeah.
science. Another thing we also encountered was even in having, so it's baffling. For something that innovative, you would think sending a letter beforehand for you to see the health minister or to see someone in the health department would rouse a quick acceptance. Oh, you're building AI in this. Okay, we have a IT department, or let's even say we have a research department. Talk to them, hear what is going on, and that could foster speed and acceptance and involvement, and it can make the world go faster. But then you realize that, like in a country like Nigeria, there is a whole lot of drawback, there's a whole lot of restraint, like constraint, I mean.
Mm.
To even go over that loop is a very difficult thing. So developers, what I advise them is before you build, and that's one reason why, as someone who wants to really solve problems in the health sector, I've been very, very reluctant to do that. Yeah, because I understand the restraint, the constraints. Constraint there is because, oh, you are building for human life, and so this. But I'm saying let there be a form of acceptance. Let
Right.
us let us research the idea together. Let the government have a body in each of these departments, especially like the health sector, that is basically or mostly on R&D and allows new startups to be able to partner with them, get information, and do stuff. That is how we can actually grow. But not somebody who you are, and I think what makes it go easily is people using the I know person, I know someone kind of thing. That tends to make move faster. But the reality of it is you don't know which solution is going to actually revolutionize the country or even that sector itself. So my own suggestion or recommendation is also, like I said, based on the book, is you should put those things in perspective. One, infrastructure. Do we have you're trying to build for, let's say I'm trying to build for Nigeria, and my focus is Lagos. Do I have the necessary infrastructure to be able to manage? The 2020 incidents it actually, or no, not 2020 actually. The incidents whereby we had we couldn't spend naira. I think I've forgotten
Yeah.
the Emefiele
Really the
issue that
redesign.
happened. That they no, not even the resign. The one whereby they changed the currency and there was a problem with people being able to get money over the counter, and I think
Oh
that
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember.
we saw that most banks failed when there was an influx because there was no infrastructure to actually support the Nigerian market. There was none. But we saw platforms like OPay showing off their infrastructure, and that infrastructure could withstand that time. That was for me. I don't know if that's it, but that was the point I felt OPay actually broke out. Because that was the turning point for them. It's so what I'm saying is the constraint of infrastructure, if you are able to, is fine. Knowledge, the culture, these people, how do they like they brought mobile money to Nigeria, and I don't know if that's even still survived or if that's even scaled. But mobile money is what they use in places like Kenya, Uganda. Those places
Public opinion.
it is the Republic of it's those places it is working. But if you consider us Nigerians, we already associated everything that has to do with our phones with just calls. We are not associating it with our banks because we believe those two things are different. So what I'm saying here is building with the knowledge of the culture. It helps because then you understand the people, you understand how they think, how an average person looks at money. We believe money and phones, and even it took a while for people to start accepting using the mobile apps the banks provide. Some people will still prefer to go to the bank physically
And
or to an ATM. And I'm even sure there was even a problem of people accepting ATM at some point. So I'm just saying, knowing the culture, then also regulations. I think the regulation is the most important part of all of this, because you could be building in silo and there is actually a big issue with regulation on what you are working on. Something that is not even going to allow you to fly. Because there are so many things going on. So there are things that before we build for countries that I'm very that are like countries like Nigeria that I'm aware of a lot of things on, you need to be sure what the policies are that are affecting your business before you start. What's the point of spending hours building a fantastic solution, but then a Nigerian policy is really kicking against it?
right.
Yeah. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, kind of makes sense. I'm very, very relatable because I was part of a team that was working on a project for World Bank at the time, and it was actually health focused project, right? The challenge you mentioned is there because imagine we were trying to get information or data concerning PACs, that's the primary healthcare centers, right? In the 747 local government, for example, it was a great challenge. It was a great challenge, right? So because if you want to bring about a solution, you also need to you need data, to be able to analyze, to decide, and
Yeah.
to be able to everything you want to build around it. It was challenging having to even hire field agents, to go out there, and of course the information that even what's the how would I say now? What's the quality of the data that is available or the information that is available? You know, some time ago, one of the guests that we had on the podcast, on the podcast, he said something which is very interesting that sometimes when you do a search, you see that most of the images that return are it looks like there's no before you can even find an African related image to what to your search, you have to scroll downwards and you just find a feed. And that's because most time we are not putting our data out there, right? So you say something like, okay, for example, now, like someone like me, I've had the opportunity to be part of people that train AI models, right? That's globally over a billion users, right? And I understand the concept of model training, scraping of data. It is what so we have like so the last model might have been trained as of October, for example. It is the available data we are able to get that we are able to use to train the model in that regard,
Yeah.
right? So the same thing applies. If your data is not out there, the model will not be trained with it. So whatever response or whatever information is available is based on the knowledge base. You see that now. So I quite agree that we should have a more robust repository where we have like an open information sharing policy. This can actually, of course, not all information are accessible because of the guidelines and sharing, but there are basic information that should be accessible for decision makers, just or startups that, like you mentioned, so they can use this information to help, their communities as well. Imagine if you had to travel the 747 local governments, to get data. Of course, you will at some point you will do some sampling or random sampling, but statistically, you know that information will still not be as concrete as when you have a more robust sample, larger sample. You get what I'm saying? So that is very correct. So in the next 5 years, where do you think? I hope that the conversation about contextual engineering patterns in the next 5 years, will have taken it. But for you, as the author of the book, what are the signs that will show you that it has actually taken root?
So science. For science, it's more or less when everybody starts to speak the language. When I mean speak the language is when an AI model is being trained contextually. per region, or the data that is being fed to it, like you said. I think, and this is even the simplest part, I shouldn't have to be searching for people on Google and it is showing me, especially when I'm in Nigeria and it's showing me a white person. I think that should even, like, that's the simplest of all. The research results should not go down. And I think they had this figured out with the business, Google business. Because if you search for a place on Google, the first responses are usually um, of relevance based on your what's the name of that thing called? The proximity you are to the business one,
Yeah.
and even their opening. So I think it's something that can also be done in every aspect. Yeah, it's supposed to be done on every aspect. We should build stuff that are way more driven. So when I start seeing those things happening, let's say I am trying to book a or plot a map from my house in Nigeria to another point in Nigeria, it should be able to put it into context that, oh, there might be traffic, calculate how long that traffic will take. Everything should be close to accurate. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's how I'm going to start saying that, oh yeah, this looks like what it is. But the terms, let's say for terms, the terms used in the book going mainstream, that's not really most of my concern. My concern is just the idea behind the book. People now being able to put these things into consideration when they are building. Let's start building for the place and not for where we are coming from. So if the target market is Kubwa, Abuja, let us build for Kubwa, Abuja. Let's not build like we are building for Louisville in Texas or we are building for Dallas in Texas. I don't know if you understand what I mean. The internet here is pretty better, is way better. Electricity is available every time. But as that is happening, we don't have. So if I'm building now and I'm not building with the fact that, oh, there's no snow in Kubwa, they don't experience any form of snow. But I then build because even in Texas, there's no snow. But in some places in Texas, there's still snow. So even what I'm saying here is those things are required for us to actually have like very, very, very sophisticated systems that can withstand the test of times. And when I start seeing the AIs themselves learning this and putting it into consideration, then it starts to make more sense.
Great. That's that. Of course, that's it actually. So, from your own context, what is one non-technical habit that you believe that makes a developer or an engineer more effective and empathetic as well?
I think it's just talking to people. Yeah, so as much as I like to be in this den and build stuff and be in my world, I realize talking to people actually works. Like I like what you said when you were telling the story about how you spoke to the manager in charge of the accounting, and then he gave you his everyday experience at the end of the month. He was able to share his pain with you. I think as developers, we should learn to be able to listen, spend time talking to other people, hearing what their problems are. It actually helps you become a much better developer because then you know what you're solving for. If you are going to be solving a problem with them. So for me, I think let's go out. Let's not go to only tech events. And this is me talking to myself too, actually. Go out, talk to other people, have fun, hike, get a different interest, something not tech related. It helps. I mean it, it helps. I've been hiking and some idea just pops. It was not even I wasn't even looking for it. It just pops in my head. I'm like, oh. So for me, that's one thing.
Great. I know why engineers want to go to engineering events, so they can get the mesh.
I think that's just not. I think that is not just unique to engineering. I think it's unique to most people because I also know someone who would go to an event and like they would go to all the different exhibitions and just be picking up things. And I'm like, how? How do you guys even do? I'll be so shy to even do such. Except they're giving it to me, but to just go, oh, can I take this? And they just keep taking stuff.
It's so interesting that you see an engineer who spend thousands or even millions of to get a very sophisticated device for themselves, but they will prefer to go and take a mesh of.
That's so funny. But yeah, because I don't know why. Sometimes, so I think for me, having if I look back to 2012 when we attended events like Startup Weekend, and we're always big on the mesh. The mesh was, I think then it was more of show off. Anyways,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I went to Startup Weekend. Oh yeah, Startup Weekend 2012, 2011. I was there. I'm not even sure which one it was, but I think that was the vibe. But now, I don't think it's something I want to. Yeah, maybe meet people, but that's definitely not the goal.
Yeah. Priorities have changed.
Priorities have changed. Yeah, maybe meet someone, talk about what you are building. Let's build something. Because I kind of feel like we're wasting time.
Mm.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I feel we're wasting time because with the way AI is going, we
It's
better
massive.
put ourselves in the center of things now, or miss out for the rest of our life.
Yeah,
That that's
I
it.
totally agree. I was listening to another conversation
Mm,
from someone where the founder of that startup was saying that they actually built the model, right?
mm.
But within the last 3 months, the last features that had been released by themselves for their business, the model built it for itself for their business.
I, are you
So
serious? Wow,
it's
that's fascinating.
it's such an interesting time we are right now, and I'm glad that we are having these conversations.
No, that's fascinating and scary at the same time. It's like you know when you beg you to solve a problem in the office and you're like, I'm busy now, I'll get to it by next sprint. And then imagine the AI itself is like, I have this problem and I'm fixing it right away. I think if you look at the way things have actually changed a whole lot. But
Yeah,
just
changed a lot.
no,
Changed.
that's scary. That's really scary.
It is. It's
But
so
I think that's
yeah.
where we are looking. That's what we are looking at, anyways.
Of course, of course.
Mm.
Like when people ask me, should they be scared? I mean, like, of course, there are different phases to it. For maybe in another conversation, or sometimes I try to share, but others are just like, okay, we'll see how it goes. But obviously, information has been here. Um, we are all aware that we can use technology for the good of the people. You can also use it for the bad of, and cause harm and so on. So that is a known fact. There is
Yeah.
nothing new about it, but we are just hoping that technology doesn't enter into the wrong hands,
Mm.
because that's where, and sometimes on my personal post, I try to share, to create awareness, because sometimes some people right now are finding difficult to even differentiate AI generated images
Mm.
from the original image.
Yeah.
Last week, I saw an image of one of these very popular YouTuber. A
Mm.
lady is dragging him right now on the internet that this young man is her father. And what is her evidence? She went to his YouTube page, took a picture of this guy and his wife, and then replaced the wife picture with her own mother's picture, and then posted that picture on the internet. Now, the
Oh.
phone that the mother was holding obviously is AI edited, because you can see that the picture is the picture frame is connected into the table where they are sitting down. And she posted it claiming that this man abandoned her and the mother. He has not been paying child support. He has not. And Will fans are trolling this man on the internet that, yo, you abandoned your child. This lady in question is over 30 years.
Wow.
And then she claimed that she was abandoned in the year 2012. The information, but what I'm trying to drive to is that people just take the information like that. There's no verification, nothing. They just believe, just like that. So it's a very crazy. And this is not even about Photoshop. You just go took the picture of the guy, just give it to the mother and say, combine this. And she's using it. She has, last time I checked, her video had over 500,000 views. It went viral last year alone. So it's really scary, right?
Yeah, it is actually. I just hope the movies we have seen that relating to AI in the world doesn't actually happen, because we have literally given it the power to do that. And every day we are still giving it the power to do that.
Of course. And that's why some of us are really talking about compliance, regulations, because those are the only frameworks that we can use to kind of guide the usage, and then ensure that we have a stable world, at least for now. So in one sentence, what would be your biggest message or motivation for developers or our audience listening, that are looking at building a very unique solution, right? But they are in the midst of challenges, some constraints. Some of them are not within their power. Some of them are not what they can control. So what would be your biggest message for this group of audience?
Having both of us gone through a whole lot of things and seen life.
I know, right?
Seeing life deal with us, and thankfully we are where we are now. I sometimes just my message would just be have faith. Have faith, because it doesn't seem like, anytime I think about it, it's always baffling to me that, oh yeah, I'm the one in this position. Oh wow, how did I, like, it's always baffling because I see other people who were very hardworking too. I see other people who did their best. This is usually not my thing. I'm usually, before I was always big on, oh, work hard and hard and hard, just keep working hard. But then lately I realized that there's a part of grace, there's a part of mercy from God, there's a part of favor. I don't think I've ever told you this, but I'll probably just say it on this podcast. You were the one who connected me to one of the major people I've worked with in my life.
Wow.
But I'm sure you didn't even know that.
I'm just hearing it too.
Exactly. So what I'm saying, I think I was telling someone, I said Patrick referred me to someone. The person Patrick referred me to, I've been working with that person for more than 5, 6, 7 years now. That person has referred me to more people. Those other people have referred me to more people. More like, and when you look at it, you just realize that God is just being merciful. God is just being God. So my advice to everyone building something is, honestly, is faith. And faith here is not faith in yourself. Yeah, have faith in yourself, but for the most part, have faith in God. If I'm going to say which of them should you have faith in percentage wise, I'll say you should have faith in God 99.99999999999. The part you have faith in yourself should be like 0.0000. Like you should just keep going, because honestly, God is the author of every beautiful thing. The Bible said something. It said it does not come into the heart of man what God has in stock for us. So that means no matter what you are envisioning, I know I'm bringing faith into this, and a lot of people are, but I'll be honest with you, that's the truth. That is what makes everything work. Because some things we build are things that are not, but we make them become. But the only way you can make something that is not become is because you have a supernatural ability or a supernatural power backing you to do that. So to be able to envision things that do not exist, we need the one who is able to give us the insights to the future. Sometimes all we need is just an insight, what the future is going to look like, what we should build, how we should solve a problem. When we get into those parts, we start seeing a lot of things making sense. And that's why I said, you now might not have known it, but just one referral. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
I'm glad I could do it. I
you
didn't even remember.
you don't. I'm not even sure you have an idea who the person is, but just
Wow.
for the sake of privacy,
Of
you know,
course.
that's just what I see. So that's why I'm always big on be good to people, have faith in God, be prayerful as much as you can, do the best you can, don't do crappy work. And I think the most thing I would even, if I'm going to share with anyone, is even if the project fails or you, because it happens. Nigeria has the constraints in building things or even delivering on projects. It takes a supernatural power for you to beat it in Nigeria. Especially when there are days I went home trying to figure out the bug, there was no light. I was praying for the laptop not to die. So I was trying to and I was iterating, I was going through Stack Overflow, searching for answers. The client doesn't know that. The client wants the project done. But when I look at now, I can literally go to bed and wake up and be like, oh, I'll do it in the morning. And actually, I'm going to do it in the morning because there is light. So there's electricity to do what I need to do. There's internet. I don't have to go and stay on top of one building carrying my laptop and trying to. I know it's all laughter and everything, but I know some people are still facing these kind of problems. Even now, I know that. But all I'm just saying is have faith. Time will change. Don't people would say a lot of things. Oh, let's do this, let's cheat the system, let's find you. No, please don't. In the long run, it will favor you, everything will make sense, and then you'll be happy you did. I know you said I should say it in one line, but I've said plenty things. I'm sorry.
I'm sure they will enjoy the. If you have been watching up to this point, drop a comment and share your experience as well. We'll be glad to contribute. So thank you very much for joining this session. It's been an amazing one, I must say,
Thank you so
sharing
much.
your experience. Our focus is just to continue to share our experience, continue
Mhm.
to encourage other people as well. You in fact, like Toby mentioned, it's not like um, everything was made from bed of roses. There were a lot of things, but
Mm.
at least seeing someone who is doing the same thing and trying their best to continue to build stuff should
Yeah,
be like a source of inspiration and motivation. So thank
yeah.
you so much for joining the
Thank you so much.
podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a beautiful session. I would like to be here another time again because it was
Of
so good
course,
talking to you.
we invite you again when you have time to join.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.